welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th Anniversary podcast. It's March 31st, and we're taking it back to 10 years ago, shocking absolutely no one. Uptown Funk was the #1 song, and the top movie at the domestic box office was the animated film Home. Jay-Z relaunched Tidal, which is how I learned Jay-Z owned Tidal. Trevor Noah was announced as Jon Stewart's Daily Show replacement. Ewan McGregor turned 44, Christopher Walken turned 72, and Rhea Perlman turned 67. But the most important thing that happened on March 31st, 2015 was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 episode One Door Closes, aired on ABC at 9/8 Central. Hi, I'm Jamie Zwarych, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, Level 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Poletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you, everyone who's watching and listening along. Good to have you.
Yes, we have a lovely, wonderful returning guest today. You know him from Agents of Fandom. TJ Zwarych is in the house, everybody.
How's it going, everyone? Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be here.
We love having you. Thank you. TJ, the last time you were on, I believe it was for the season 1 episode Tahiti. So that was like almost a full season ago, which is crazy. Time is like really crazy. In that last year, what have you been doing in terms of watching? Have you rewatched any more S.H.I.E.L.D.? Was this the first one you've watched since, or did that last one get you into more of a rewatch zone?
So I had been doing a rewatch a while back because my sibling-in-law had not seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet, so we were doing a watch along with their first time. But then they got busy and kind of fell off, and so we fell off alongside of them. But literally like 2 weeks ago, we had the thought like, oh, we need to hop back on this train. But I literally just had the thought as I was rewatching this episode for the podcast. It's so funny how, when you've already seen each of these episodes 4 to 5 times, how easy it is to just like hop back into, oh no, as soon as the episode starts, okay, I know exactly where we are. I know what came before. I know what happens next. I'm ready to go. I'm here. I'm with it.
Yes.
And so over the last year, we did like the first 2 seasons ish, or just short of that for when we were watching it. But since I had a baby about a year ago, and so over the last year, I've been really trying to take advantage of the fact that she has no idea what's on the screen. And so we can watch absolutely whatever we want in front of her. So she's just kind of like running around the room playing with her toys. And we've been watching The White Lotus and Reacher and all of these shows that we would never be able to watch with her in the room a couple years from now. So just really trying to hammer home as much television as physically possible over the last year while parenting, of course.
That's really smart, because I feel like when she's old enough, like S.H.I.E.L.D. could be on the TV. Like it might be a little scary or whatever, but no one's like, jacking off their brother.
Hashtag White Lotus.
That was my Amy Marie Lou. I can't remember
Amy Lou Wood.
That was my best at her reaction there, though. As soon as she heard that.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more things. Obviously, I'm sure the audience can tell we are not recording live today. I was so caught up in our Japan April schedule that I forgot to make arrangements for this week. Friend of the pod, Jenna Anderson's getting married, so I'll be in Chicago. Tony and I will be in Chicago, which is going to be amazing. Our April schedule isn't completely set yet, but here's what I think is going to happen, folks. I think we're going to do episode 16 live a little early. Episode 17 is going to be pre-recorded like this one. And then episode 18, we're going to record a little late when we get back, so that'll still be live. But follow our Instagram, because that could change at any moment. We're also today, we're going to skip Tony Leaves the Room. He got cut out early last week. Thank you, everyone who watched our episode with Maya Stoyan. She was amazing. But Tony gets to stick around today. There's not a lot. TJ and I discussed it, and we decided there wasn't much to talk about that Tony can't hear. So let's get into it. One Door Closes, written by the Penguin showrunner Lauren LaFranc and Raphael Judkins. The episode was directed by David Solomon. This is his first of 3 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes. He previously directed one of the best Firefly episodes, Out of Gas, as well as 19 episodes of Buffy. So David fans over here. Oh yeah, take your drinks. Tony Ward, not here again.
It's good. Makes for good television. the lack of Ward. No, I'm just kidding. I'm genuinely interested in what the hell he's up to. But you know what? Enough popping off. Didn't need him. I really, really liked this one, guys. I think it might be my favorite of the season so far.
Really?
Yeah, and I haven't really
Interesting.
been ranking as diligently as I was when we were doing the previous season 1. So I'd have to maybe check my notes on that. But I was really into this one, y'all.
Cool. TJ, where does this one stand for you?
I really enjoyed it as well. It's kind of the opening everything up and revealing all the answers type of episode that you've been waiting for a while, and it still keeps you with questions going forward for the rest of the season. But it's kind of that thing of like, we've known there's been this tension between, you know, two halves of the character lists, and we've been waiting for it to break for so long, and it finally is now there, and we get to know why it's been going down. So I agree, very, very exciting episode of television. You forget just how good each of these like, you go back and you think of the episode arcs within Agents of Shield and within the seasons, and you're like, oh, I love this set, and I love this set, and you think of them kind of as half seasons at a time, but you kind of forget just how well each individual episode is written and directed until you go back and you do a rewatch, and this is one of the better ones. I couldn't agree more.
100%. I love this one because it's the thing. Like we're always going to be, I feel like, team Coulson's Shield, but I love that we got this flashback, and everything about this flashback is so compelling. And you see, like, these are good guys who went through something really dark. They almost decided to kill themselves, which we'll get into. But I also have to shout out the fact that this is a Edward James Olmos and Lucy Lawless reunion. As a Battlestar Galactica fan, that makes me really happy that they got to work together again in this episode. We start with the flashback. And I like how the Hydra agents, like, always with the Nazi stuff. These fucking Hydra guys just really refuse to admit they're Nazis.
They are. They're born from Nazi research science people, and they're also fascists and, you know, murderers and experimenting on people regardless of without any consideration for human life. They are textbook Nazis, dumbasses. They just think because it's decades later they don't qualify, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
You could take out that snippet and just post it without any knowledge of this being an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast and just have it be about society, and it would be perfectly fitting.
Yeah.
Wow, you're so sadly correct.
That gift should be in heavy rotation, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we had this like really tender Mac moment. Tony, I want to check in with you on how you're feeling about Mac, because, you know, last week he lied really good and it was, you know, hurting your feelings. He has been really defensive or I should say offensive about like alien crap, quote unquote. But we get a little bit of his backstory here and see a little bit more into him. And I'm just curious where you stand on him.
Well, for one, I thought it was crazy that, like, prior to Fitz, he had a Fitz. He had this little techie white boy who he was really protective over, and then he was like, he got killed. And so, like, it was nice. Like, it now it's clear that Fitz is, like, you know, filling in the role of this guy that he lost to him. So I thought that was really, really sweet. But no, Mac's fantastic in this episode. I don't think he's a bad dude. I think he's doing what he thinks is right. And you know, yes, we're Team Coulson, but it was really compelling to watch him and Bobby navigate this. Their characters are deepening, and I agree. I really love the flashbacks because they're urgent. You know, they're not like the Ward flashbacks where it's like, this is how you became an asshole. They're like, you know, shit's blowing up. Like it's like point A, point B, blood, gun. You know, it was very, very. Every time we went back to the flashback, I was glad we were back. You know.
Totally. TJ, this how do you feel about the flashbacks? Just be it like as a narrative device, because like Tony said, it is definitely more interesting than some of the ones we've seen before.
Depending on how it's used, I don't mind it as a narrative device, and I agree. I think this was an example of a really strong one because the flashbacks were directly answering the questions that we've had not only in this episode but for the previous few episodes. So even though it takes you out of the action of the moment, it's explaining things we've been wanting to know since Mac and Bobby have been being little shits within Coulson's Shield, and we wanted to know why, right? And so even though it takes you out of the takedown that's happening within Shield right now, it shows you why they're doing it. And we've been wondering that for a while. So I thought they did a really good job of that in this one. Going back to the Lucy Lawless thing, I loved as a Xena Warrior Princess fan that her introduction is her absolutely throwing something at someone just as if it was like her circular boomerang type thing, her discus, whatever they're called. But I thought that was really cool, and she's great. It was fun to see their little team in action, and to kind of be without seeing that, you can't truly understand why they're doing it, because you can hear, oh yeah, we had this team before. We're doing things the right way. We think you're doing the wrong way. Sure. But of course, we're all going to be like, no, you're totally in the wrong, because we've spent this time with Coulson's team. And so without having this flashback, spending that time with their team, I don't think we could fully appreciate their motives and why they're actually doing what they're doing.
And we talked about this last week a little bit, but like you can't blame them for thinking Coulson might be compromised, considering what he's been through, like the resurrection, the alien blood. Like, when Gonzalez asks him, like, can you guarantee you're not like whatever he said for the aliens or whatever, and Coulson couldn't answer the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a frustratingly relevant argument. I wish you could just dismiss it offhand, but Coulson has, and this is the thing, I've been talking about this about Coulson since we started this podcast. He always takes it to the brink. He always goes to the bleeding edge of things and comes out ahead. And it's just that lately there's been a lot more loss suffered as a result. So yeah, I'm glad that we that this showdown between Coulson's Shield and Edward James Olmos's Shield, is it Martinez or Rodriguez? I forget his
Gonzalez.
I was going to keep listing Mexican last names until I got there.
One of the Ezes.
Yeah, Gonzalez is his Shield and Coulson's Shield. Like, I was kind of like, are we going to spend 4 or 5 episodes tiptoeing around each other? I'm really happy that we met Edward James almost last episode, and they've already collided and separated again. Like, I'm grateful that they kind of hit the gas on that. It was good.
Yeah. I want to backtrack a little, and just because I think it's really funny, in the first flashback when Bobby uses her phone, just slides her phone under the door, and that's a distraction. I just think that's really funny.
That is really funny.
Reminded me of like Iron Man 3-esque of like, at the end of the day, even if these people don't have all their gadgets and their weapons, they still know what to do when they're in a pinch.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. When Bobby does come back to the base, she takes that risk. She comes back. We find out that she has she's hiding a thing in a fire extinguisher, like the way she's been connecting to the quote real shield. And my thing is, does that fire extinguisher not work? I feel like that's dangerous. They're like in an underground. They need some good fire safety in there. I think this was an oversight on Bobby's part.
I
TJ,
think it still works.
Do you have any safety? Okay.
I think both can be true. I think it can be a secret holding place for a special item and also a functioning fire extinguisher. Maybe it has less fire extinguishing goop inside of it, but I think it still works.
I unfortunately have no comment, because anytime I think of anything safety or OSHA related, I just get sad that the Acolyte has been canceled.
Oh, that's funny and sad and so true. Oh, that is any excuse to bring that up, though, just in case Disney's listening. They know that we're all really pissed off. Well, meanwhile, Sky's back at the safe house. She's been chatting with Gemma about her gloves. There's a moment, though, where Gemma calls Fitz Leo, and Tony gasped.
Yeah, I said, "Oh, that was such a brutal." I've never would have thought I'd hear that in my life. Gemma called Fitz Leo. Oh, that hurt. That was so combative. That was so rude. That got me good.
It just breaks my heart. I just don't like seeing them fight,
No.
It doesn't matter what's going on in this show, how terrible the stakes are, how much the odds are stacked against them. As long as Fitzsimmons is good, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everything is going to be fine as long as those two are fine. When those two are at odds, it's like being uncomfortable while not at home. You know, it's like if something's going wrong, like you're really sick, shit's hitting the fan, but you're at home, it feels handleable. You
Yeah.
know, because you're in your home base, things good. You can curl up in a blanket, you can lay down in bed. You're safe. There's no safety blanket when Fitzsimmons are fighting. It's just like, oh God, what's gonna happen? My parents are getting divorced.
Oh, we're definitely gonna remember that one and put it in the back pocket for later. Coulson does confront Mac. I love in this conversation we find out all the mechanics that are working around him are all like ready to go. I thought that was a cool little espionage detail.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when, like, Coulson's, he's pretty tough and stuff, but he stepped up to Mac. I was like, are you sure you want to do that, Coulson? Like, he was like doing his intimidating I'm the boss thing, and I was a little concerned. And then, of course, naturally, there's like 6 or 7 guys in place. That was a nice moment.
Very Natasha Romanoff-esque of, I'm coming into this and this is an interrogation and you don't know that it's that I'm interrogating you. Like,
right.
She kind of goes in with playing the victim thing like she does with Loki, like she did at the beginning of Avengers. But he came in as it's a friend and I'm trying to find out some information without you knowing that's what I'm doing until you're in the position I want you to be. And it's one of my favorite, like, spy or, crime tropes to when somebody steps into the situation, one of your favorite characters is like, ha, you've stepped into my web. I've set you up and everything has fallen into place. And Clark Gregg does such a good job of that too, of just like, oh, what's going on? I got you right where I want you.
That has
It's
everything
very
to
much
do with his
the,
face. I think because Clark Gregg looks like he's always smiling. Like he's just perpetually smiling. And so it works great for that.
Just got the face of a man I trust.
Yeah.
And it also has the energy of like the Ethan Hunt's, like he's the living manifestation of destiny, which always come back to. We get a May versus Bobby fight, which is like, yes, I wish that went on longer. They're fighting over, the toolbox, but these are like the top 2 women in S.H.I.E.L.D. basically, aside from Nat. That like seeing them go toe to toe is pretty badass.
Hell yeah.
Natasha Romanoff, Clint Barton, Melinda May, and Bobby Morse walk into a room. It's locked behind them. No weapons. It doesn't unlock until only one is left standing. Who is the one left standing?
I think it's got to be Nat. It's got to be Nat, right? Like,
I think so too.
What's Clint going to do without a bow and arrow?
I'm sorry, TJ, that hypothetical wasn't as much of a conversation piece as
okay, who comes second? Take out that. Who comes second?
I would say May.
I think so too.
Yeah, because Bobby doesn't have her batons, and then Clint is just dust against these women.
No, Clint can hold his own. We just really haven't seen enough of it. He's always got his Ronin sword or his bow and arrow. He can fight, but no, it's. I agree with you all. It's May.
I feel like all 3 of them are near equal in skill level, and maybe even Bobby above May. But May's just got a different level of like, I will not lose this.
Yeah.
And I think Bobby does. Bobby has it. Don't get me wrong. Bobby has it.
Yeah.
But a little bit less than May. And I think Clint is for sure the first one to give up.
Yeah. I completely agree.
He's gonna get as soon as a bone breaks or a ligament twist too far, he's just gonna lay there and be like, why am I even here? I'm just gonna stop till this is done.
Yeah. I think if you told him the hypothetical and said, all right, now go in the room, he'd be like, I'm good.
I don't know.
Back at the safe house, Skye tries on the gloves. They make her tight and woozy, and then, what's really cool is she finds Hulk's like punch print in the wall. Tony, did you get what that was right away?
Yeah. I did. I was like, that's got to be Hulk. And then because they'd already, I believe last episode Coulson had mentioned that Banner stayed there to cool off and stuff.
Well, he said Rogers stayed there. He only mentioned Steve Rogers. I don't think he mentioned Banner last week.
Really? Okay, so it was just this one. I thought he
Yeah.
did.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he only said Rogers last week.
Okay. Yeah, I did clock it as a Hulk print. It's got to be Hulk, which is pretty cool. I'm imagining that on the other side of that wall is just a chamber where Banner could put himself if he felt like he needed to keep people out of danger or himself out of danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a reference here that rarely did the show feel like dated. Like, oh, this was 10 years ago. And one moment was when Skye says, "Oh, Fitz, I can't believe you made me watch Paranormal Activity." Like that just feels like a reference from 10 years ago. TJ, what would be like the equivalent today if we were like talking about like a ghost movie or like a home invasion kind of a thing? Like we're not referencing Paranormal Activity in 2025.
It's not a 1-for-1, but the first thing that came to my mind is I can't believe you made me watch Black Mirror. Like,
Okay.
Because Paranormal Activity was very much like a phenomenon, right? It was like Blair Witch Project-esque of like, this is real, everyone. This is not a scripted project. Like, this is real shit. And Black Mirror is, very much the opposite of that, but it seems like it's the kind of phenomenon of like the weird thing that people watch and talk about, and if you're not into it, you are not into it, but if you are, you're into it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tony, do you have a suggestion of what it would be now?
I just feel like it would be A24. I think in the way that that's very much the zeitgeistiest like thing. It's not necessarily a franchise or even one genre of movies, but like I feel like it does represent a vibe as effectively as Paranormal Activity does.
Mm-hmm. Like if she was like, "Oh, Fitz, I can't believe you made me have that Ari Aster marathon."
Yeah, exactly. I can't believe you made me watch 8 Lucas Hedges movies.
Oh gosh. Then Gordon shows up, which is cool. I like that Gordon doesn't just like take her. He's like they just have a conversation, and I really like this scene. TJ, tell me how you feel about this scene.
This is, I think, such an important scene because it works in direct contrast to what's going on at S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, we're seeing the clear wrong way to go about things from Gonzalez's S.H.I.E.L.D., right? They're keeping everything a secret. They're infiltrating the base. They're taking everybody out, and they're trying to take S.H.I.E.L.D. back by force. And unsurprisingly, Coulson and his team, they don't like it. They think it's a shitty idea because it took them by surprise. And we see the exact opposite approach in this one. He says, like, he comes in and he says, I'm not here to hurt you. I am here as a friend. And he immediately starts, because of his wealth of experience, immediately starts saying, I know what you're going through. And not even, I know what you're going through. This is how you should feel, because I think he probably knows she's had people telling her, this is how you should feel, this is what you should do, and no one's been in her position. And so he simply tells her, like, this is what I went through. You're not alone. There are other people. And that's the one thing Skye's wanted her whole life so far, right? Is just to be part of a group, to be part of a family. And it really works so well in contrast to what's going on in S.H.I.E.L.D. of like, by force, as a friend, one works, one doesn't, very clearly as they're coming to head at the pinnacle of the episode.
Tony, how do you feel about Gordon? Do you trust him? Is he sus to you? Where are you at with Gordon?
I thought he was, the previous times we've seen him, a totally malicious character. I thought this is a scary looking, scary behaving, secretive, dangerous guy. So this scene was a revelation in terms of how he's having the most human relationship with Skye than anyone else. As TJ said, he's telling her that there's nothing wrong with her. He's telling her that she is okay. Coulson is doing his best version of that, but it's not. No one's convinced. She's not convinced that that's what he thinks. We're not convinced that that's what he thinks. So this was a really cool scene. I'm concerned because I don't want the S.H.I.E.L.D. family to be scattered asunder. But this guy's I am really interested to know what's on the other side of this door. I want to know, metaphorically speaking, I want to know where they're going together.
Mhm.
Because this is because you also snatched Raina up as well previously, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's over there, and Kyle MacLachlan also.
Yeah, he's taking them all somewhere.
Yeah, and last we saw Kyle MacLachlan, he was going to go meet somebody very important. So I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, I wonder who.
Right, TJ?
Who's important? I don't know. So on the base,
I was gonna add to the conversation, and there's like nothing I can get to that was like, oh, I was gonna say, oh no, I shouldn't say that. Oh,
I just saw you
no,
squirming. I saw you sitting there like trying to.
My gears were turning, and there was just I couldn't spew anything out that I felt was valuable but not spoilery.
Yeah. We'll just say Tony does not know who's on the other side of that door. And it's going to be exciting when we find out. If we ever do. But there's a great scene where Gemma gets one over on Bobby, which is really, really fun because, we all know Bobby's smart. She's also, into science. But Gemma, Tony literally like wooed when that happened.
Yeah. Well, it's like Gemma's kind of gone traveled quite a bit since the show began for being the worst liar in the history of the world to pulling one over on Bobby. And I suspected that she was going to do something just based on the nuances of her performance. So I was really delighted. I did want to, if I can though, jump back regarding Gemma real quick before, she calls Fitz Leo and all that stuff. She is on a virtual call with Sky, and Gemma's really giving me the creeps. She's really giving me the creeps with how us and them. She's wearing a mask. She's wearing a friend mask when she's talking to Sky. Like it's like the words are coming out of her mouth that she cares and that she's sorry. But like Fitz called it out earlier, she's terrified of her, and so that gave me the creeps. So I was like, it was nice to just like after having experienced that to just root for Gemma for a minute for just being clever. That was great.
Mm-hmm. TJ, do you have anything to add about the Gemma of it all?
I love when Gemma does something badass, because like she is the at the end of the day, you feel like if Fitzsimmons are having an argument, Gemma's probably gonna win. She's always had that little bit of spunk in her, so to actually see it become trained and comfortable and ultimately confident. Is what I love to see from Gemma. And so that was such an awesome scene to just get her to take Bobby out because like there's something specific like that feels specifically wrong. And I don't know why it feels like a different kind of wrong than the rest of it. But Bobby lying to Gemma and Mac lying to Fitz just feels worse than all the rest of the scheming and lying. Yeah. And so to see Gemma be like, oh, you're gonna lie to me, fine, and get her with the zap. It's fantastic.
Well, the last friend that lied to them dropped them in the bottom of the ocean, so they've come a long way since then. We are going to take our quick 30-second break. If you're listening at home, refill your drinks, do all that business, or just skip ahead 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydro. We are here with our friend TJ talking one door closing. We got flashbacks. We've got a lot of things coming to a head. We're talking about the lying and all that business, but Mac does save Fitz. Like he jumps in front of a wall explosion to save him, and I think that is something that we have to shout out.
Yeah, no, he's for real. Like this is the thing. He's not a bad guy. He's just there's some divisiveness going on between who's in charge. And I think we're all going to figure it out. But Mac's a good one.
That's ultimately, I think, what it comes down to with both Mac and Bobby. And why it hurts so much more when we see them doing it to Fitz and Simmons is because we know how much they care about them. And when shit hits the fan, they will throw themselves in front of the fire to protect them. And so that's like, it makes it all the more, why are you doing this? You know, Gonzalez comes in and he acts like an asshole, and it's very easy to be like, hey, these are the bad guys. I want my Shield to win. But when you see the Bobby and Simmons and then the Mac and Fit stuff, it's like, no, this is a family. Why are you doing this?
One of the things that makes me definitively Team Coulson in this is just what you said. A tactical assault on this base is a dreadful idea. It's like there's and Gonzalez, that's correct, right? Gonzalez? Yeah. Gonzalez is saying like thinks that this is the only way to do it. And I'm like, there is a dialogue and a discourse that could happen. Like nobody, like if you want to apprehend Coulson, fine, give him the opportunity to, to speak or it's reckless and there's no respect and it's not right.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of like Mac and Gonzalez and everything, back to the flashback, we find out that Gonzalez got a fucking axe to the leg, which he's like, I took that axe from him. I'm like, I would have liked to have seen that. And, maybe Edward James almost was, pretty old and he didn't want to film a axe battle scene, but I'm a little sad we didn't get to see that.
Yeah. Marvel one shot, almost on the axe.
TJ, are you a Battlestar Galactica fan?
No.
Okay. You would really like it. You should watch it.
My Battlestar Galactica knowledge ends at what Dwight Schrute talks about in The Office.
Yes, fair. It is while the final season is a bit of a letdown, it's still an amazing show. I really like Mac's little like boxer break speech. Just that whole moment where and I also like there's so much going on here, and but another Mac moment is when he asks Bobby, do you think Hydra destroyed the wall? Because he's already thinking about his friend's memoriam, like going up at Shield Academy where they have all the names of the fallen Shield, and I just think that's so sad.
Yeah that's a good point. I didn't really catch that.
Wow. I just watched it took 2 nights to watch it, but I just watched Avengers Endgame last night, finished it, and it reminds me of the Scott Lang scene where he's looking at all the people who have died and he doesn't know what has happened yet, and it just like don't make me don't humanize the people I don't even know. I'm already emotionally torn up by this wonderful cast of characters going through hell that I love. Don't make me care about the ones that I've never even met before.
Right.
That's good. Like Buffy's really good at doing that. Like I always think about the season 7 episode Help with Cassie, the girl who said she's going to die that week, and that's like such a good example of like, oh, you really made me care this time. So back in present day, they arrest Coulson. They want to find Skye. We got fucking May in the shadows. May's fucking so badass in this episode. I love it. We're gonna talk a little bit more about her saving the day in a second, but we have to close the book on the Fitzsimmons of this episode, which is them on the floor holding hands, because they're fighting, but in the end of the day, they know they can trust each other. And they will be there for each other, and that trips me up. Tony, how'd you feel about that?
It was nice. It was really it's after hearing her say Leo, it was nice to see them have some, even though the little piece that they have together is brought on by terrible exterior circumstances. It was a good moment of togetherness.
Mm-hmm. TJ, talk us through just May coming in and demolishing everybody. She ices Gonzalez. She puts Coulson in a fucking elevator that's in the middle of the office.
That thing was fast.
That was dope. Just share your thoughts on the one and only Melinda May.
It is a dream of mine, and it's one of the largest failures of my time since starting Agents of Fandom that I've not yet gotten a chance to talk to Ming-Na Wen. And she is like bucket list number 1 of people I want to talk to since starting Agents of Fandom, and still is, from Mulan to Star Wars to Marvel, all of it. And
Don't forget Street Fighter.
Exactly, and there are a few things in all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that get me more fired up than just the scene of May kicking ass. You know, when we're all backed against the wall, everybody's stuck in a corner. All right, let May do her thing. And I also just love when she takes charge. You know, like she is so loyal to whoever the leader is. She will do whatever they say at any cost as long as she trusts them. But there comes a time when she realizes, like, hey, this is not going how it needs to go. And so she just does what she needs to do, take charge, and tells Coulson what to do. He goes, damn, what an entrance. You know, like I love when she goes into boss mode.
Yeah. It's precious stuff.
Same. The latest flashback, this is kind of where it comes to a head where they're arguing whether or not to take back the ship. Do they follow Fury's orders? And then, Gonzalez says it's not a democracy, and that's when Bobby says maybe it should be. This whole thing was her. Of course she's on the real S.H.I.E.L.D. side, because as Gonzalez says, if I had followed Fury's orders like I was supposed to, hundreds of loyal S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would have died. And I do think it's like an important, thing to think about. Tony, how do you feel about just the fact that there's just a giant ship base out there that's been out there? I think it's pretty dope.
Yeah, that is dope. We saw it last episode with Nick Blood running out on it's like the helicarrier, but not as elaborate and doesn't fly. But yeah, no, that tracks. And it also, I like that because it shows you how minuscule Coulson and his team feel by comparison. Like that is a massive operation with a lot of firepower and considerably more personnel. So it just makes our good guys feel small, and that's good. It's good writing.
TJ, would you rather live on the bus or on the boat? Oh, you're muted.
Dang it! I had to type, and I didn't want to be typing into the microphone. Cool. I definitely would rather be on the bus. Like, just you can get to places quicker. Being on the water just feels like there's more that can go wrong, which probably isn't true. Like, if you're in the air and you get hit with something, it can go real wrong real fast. But I don't know. The bus to me just seems, if not safer, but just like more secure and easier to evade what I'm trying to evade.
It can be invisible.
Yeah.
Can that boat turn invisible? I don't think so.
It's like, oh no, this terrible thing is happening. We got to get there. All right. See you in 3 days and 7 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good point. So the big moment of the episode. It's funny because whenever I think of Skye getting her powers, this is her at the cabin fighting off other S.H.I.E.L.D. I always think it happens sooner, and I'm always like, every episode I'm like, is this the one? Is this the one? And last week I was like, oh, it's finally happening next week because I love this showdown. It's like, fuck them. He pulled out a gun. It was his fault. He got impaled by a fucking giant tree branch. This is just all of it. I love all of it. Tony, I feel like you're saying that this is one of your favorite episodes. I feel like this scene had to do something.
It's a lot. This is a huge contributor to that. The power that, I always like that moment. It's kind of like, you watch X-Men and, they can't really control it, but in that spontaneous moment when they don't think, and they exhibit their power in ways that surprise everyone, including themselves, really good. And the effects are really good. The emotional impact of it, the way Bobby screams out Skye's name before Calderon's going to shoot her is like, that got me. It was what you were saying, TJ, about, ultimately these are friends. They may be divided right now, but that stands. Yeah, an amazing moment. And fuck Calderon. Like even last episode, he was like an asshole, and now it's like, oh no, you're like a murdering prick. And that's why I'm like, dude, Edward James Olmos, like, check out your own fucking team. Like, look, like how bleeding obvious is it that this guy is not fit for this kind of position, can't be trusted, is violent and impulsive. Like the fact that he was just gonna like kill Skye, I was like, yeah, I saw that coming. Where you at? Gonzalez. That pissed me off. And I'm really glad he has a huge chunk of tree sticking out of his body now. I hope he's really fucked up. I don't like that guy. And I know that actor. I don't know where I know him from, but I know his face. And I haven't
He's in a lot of stuff.
Do you watch Arrow?
I don't watch Arrow.
He was a big bad guy in Arrow. But yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
And now he's impaled. TJ, when I think about the season, this scene is like one of first it's the city stuff, like obviously like the Terrigenesis and Sky going through that is like number one, but this is so up there. And so whenever you revisit it, does it evoke any kind of new feelings for you?
I just feel so bad for her because she's been abandoned by every single family she has ever had. And even though these aren't the same people, they wear the emblem and they present as the exact same people that she has finally made a family with that she has thought was going to last. And so it sucks when you see, how long it took her to finally open up to her fellow agents and those around her. And then the second, and that I think that's why, to go back to what you talked about earlier, Tony, I believe it was Tony, it might have been Jamie, but it makes it so uncomfortable the way Gemma is talking to her, of just like very much othering her, of, ooh, you're alien now, that's scary, we got to get rid of it, we love you, but we got to get rid of that part of you, right? Makes it very uncomfortable when you see this entire group that looks like her family immediately turn on her because they're scared of her and they're scared of what she could potentially do. But much like Agent May, most of the very best Sky moments throughout the series are like, oh, my back's against the wall. I have no other options. Well, good thing I'm a fucking badass. And we just get a really cool action sequence. And so with all of the emotional trauma still comes, it's still overcome by her ability to rise above it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I just like in general, I really love the concept of Quake powers. Like, I think it was Brian Michael Bendis who created Quake. I hope I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, correct me on the internet, people. But she's just like what a cool power. Like you don't think like there's so many like telekinesis and all. Like I was just watching the Twilight movies, and all the vampires in the last movie have like an X-Men ripoff power, and like it's just a unique one, and I really appreciate that from the comics. With the post-credit scene, Coulson's like at like some bar in like Tiki's place and getting a fruity beverage, and then Hunter comes and Hunter's signs the napkin and he says, "I work for you now," and I really like this because like he heard what Gonzalez had to say. He didn't disagree. He didn't, and Bobby, who he loves, is on that team. But I really appreciate that he's like, fuck that. I'm sticking with you, Coulson. Tony, do you agree with that? Do you think he's on the up and up?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he absolutely is a good guy. I like that. I like it because he's a rogue, right? But he's kind of a classic rogue, but he has chosen a side. I believe he's authentic. We've had enough double crosses on this team, or too many double crosses on this team for me to suspect that he's saying one thing and doing another. So I'm happy. I like these two. I'm excited to see what they do together.
Cool.
It's one of many within Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. moments within Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that Hunter just pops into a scene and I just like actively cheer. Like it's such a good way of like, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Hunter! Yeah! Like every single time he pops in, and this is like the prime example of it. He's just such a fun person to cheer for because he's a little shit. He's a loose cannon, but he's our loose cannon.
Yeah.
Like he's like, we're gonna talk shit about how much of how much of an idiot he is, but don't you dare say a negative word about Hunter because that's our literally. Like he's one of my favorite characters in the series, and so anytime we get more of him, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed, Tony, a thing that you do is like when you refer to any character, you refer to them as their character's name, but for some reason you always say Nick Blood. And I think it's funny because did you know? I don't feel like you didn't really know Nick Blood super well before this.
Cool
And
name, like Nick Blood. Like
it's
you'd
just a
be
dope
lucky to
name.
have a superhero name as cool as Nick Blood. Are you kidding me? Like Nick
It
Blood.
is pretty dope. TJ, before we close out, was there anything about this episode that we didn't discuss that you wanted to talk about?
No, and I've been thinking of ways to kind of like tease this and say like a small portion of what I would want to say in a Tony Leaves the Room segment without having to do it. And it's that this episode, I think, just really, really sets the stage for what is an epic end to season 2. Like this episode to me is the first one that kind of like really puts the pieces in motion to get to what is a fucking awesome end to this season.
Season 2 is my second favorite season, probably, and a lot of that has to do with like we're ramping up. Tony, anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think I expressed all my feelings on this episode.
Cool. TJ, we do a thing on the show now where we name an episode the MVP of the episode. I'll give you a second to think about it. I'll give mine first. I normally don't go first. You know, I was debating saying May, but I think I want to give it to Mac because I love him in the flashbacks. I love the way he saves Fitz. I just really, really dig his vibe in this episode. Tony, do you have an MVP?
Yeah, I mean it's really close race for me between Mac and Bobby, but I do think I'm going to go Mac on this one.
Cool.
I'm going to go with Gemma Simmons because although she didn't have the most screen time, and I too was debating May. I was going to pick May originally, but with limited screen time, Gemma just comes in with some of the very best line deliveries and moments of the entire episode. And I kind of talked about how her and Fitz together, I view them as kind of the safety blankets and emotional comfort of the series as long as they're good. In a episode where it kind of feels like everything is going wrong, it's nice to have Gemma be confident because it makes you feel like we're still moving in the right direction, even though everything's collapsing around us.
Yeah,
totally. Real quick before we go, we have another episode poster. This one designed by Delicious Design League. It's Bobby this week, and it's like this is a dope one. It's not the one I thought it was going to be, which is one that I had. I really love the colors of this. Doesn't beat last week for me. Last week is my favorite that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
But it's just like I love pink in stuff that isn't normally pink. Like when horror movies have like pink credits, I really love a pink pop like this.
It is sharp, and it's a great colors and great patterns, and I dig it a lot.
But I also want to say, if it wasn't for the Shield logo, if I was just walking down and saw this in a window, I'd think it was Uma Thurman in Kill Bill.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily look like Bobby, but yeah, it does indeed look like Uma.
Yeah,
I even got a little bit of Black Canary vibes there.
Okay, yeah.
But absolutely beautiful. Like I too agree. I love the colors. Like this is a really, really cool poster.
Yes, thank you, Maria, for being our poster sharer. TJ, where can the people find you and listen to Agents of Fandom?
Yeah, you can find the Agents of Fandom on socials, at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. We got a lot of really fun stuff coming. We're live every week after Daredevil Born Again, and this week we had an episode dropping with your Phase Hero co-host, Aaron Perrine joined us for that one, and so make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to be doing live shows breaking down Andor and The Last of Us coming up here. Of course, we will do Thunderbolts right after we see the movie, so lots of really fun stuff coming, some interviews set to drop, Agents of Fandom, wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, and on most socials, except for TikTok and Twitter, where it's just Agents Fandom because some asshole decided to take the account and never make a single post.
Rude. And keep an eye out because I might be joining for an Andor episode. I don't know. Let's see. Tony, you want to say our thank yous?
Yeah, so I'll say thank you to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. And thank you to Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram for doing our music. Thank you to our producer, Maria. Thank you, producer Maria.
You're welcome.
And thanks for our returning guest, TJ. It's always good to have you, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me back. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I love you both so much. So it's a absolute blast to come on anytime you need someone. I'm more than happy to join.
Hell yeah.
TJ is definitely the person I podcast with the most who I don't have a podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like, which is I love that. A reminder to follow us at LitoPod and on Instagram and Blue Sky, especially Instagram, because again, our April schedule is a little crazy since we're going to Japan. But we've got some fun stuff. Thankfully, we'll be back for May when this season comes to an end. We're so close. It's crazy. Goodbye. Thank you.